Your fast-track guide to everything on the move starts right now. From the Billionaire News Channel studio to Mel 947 BFM, I'm Paolo del Rosario, and this is Shift Happens. We begin with the latest in mobility. Next week, car owners can wait until Tuesday to fuel up their cars at the pump as prices for diesel and gasoline are expected to drop. According to an industry source, prices of gasoline and diesel are expected to go down by 4.5 to 5 pesos per liter as diplomatic breakthroughs were observed between the United States and Iran. The source also cites a stronger peso this week up against the dollar, which helped put more downward pressure on domestic prices. We will know the final price adjustments next week after the Department of Energy makes its announcement. Transport groups have called off their planned transport strike after dialogue with the Department of Transportation. According to Secretary Abanoy Lopez, the DOTR will continue to find ways to help PUV drivers and operators in their day-to-day operations. The government earlier announced an additional 2 peso increase in fuel subsidy, making fuel discounts 12 pesos per liter. Among the transport groups that will continue to ply their routes on Monday are Pasang Masda, Alto DAP, Fedjo DAP, Busina, Acto, and Stop and Go. However, Manibela Chairman Mar Valbuena says the group will convene first to talk about the ongoing strike, or rather going on strike, or joining their fellow groups to continue their trips next week. On Monday, the DOTR will start constructing the EDSA busway station at the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange. In an advisory, the PITX will implement temporary changes to traffic flow and passenger movement to accommodate construction works. The terminal management asks the commuting public to allot extra time for their travels as traffic is expected while improvements are underway. Now it's Friday, the day that you have all been waiting for. But before all of that exciting weekend ganap that we have here my favorite co-host to end every week, Vice Editor-in-Chief, Vernon Sarne. Vernon, kumusta naman?
Favorite co-host pag Friday.
Kapag Friday, oo. Yeah. Kaya matching tayo ngayon, di ba? Ayos ba? Diba? So, hindi to planado, pero parang sasayaw tayo.
Oo nga eh.
Okay, so we're gonna move on here and talk about mobility because we're asking what makes a city truly move. Is it wider roads, faster cars, or something more? As our cities continue to grow, the way we design our streets and transportation systems has a direct impact on how safely and efficiently, as well as comfortably, people can get from one place to another. Mobility today isn't just about getting to your destination. It's about giving people more choices, the dignity, from walking and cycling to public transport and emerging technologies. Building a people-first transport system requires smarter planning, better infrastructure, and a shared vision for the future of our streets. Today, we'll explore how innovation, active mobility, and better urban design can help create cities that work for everyone.
Para pag-usapan ng kinabukasan ng mobility at kung paano makakabuo ng mas ligtas at mas people-centered na mga lungsod, makasama natin ngayon, ito mga kasama ko sa Visor to sina Hans Bosshard, maker at mobility innovator, tsaka si Leandro Mangubat, mobility advocate, urbanist at cycling enthusiast. Guys, welcome to Shift Happens.
Nice to be here.
Thank you so much for being here, gentlemen. Maraming salamat. I love yung work nila eh. Bagets pala yung mga kinukuha ng writer sa Visor. But I want to start off first with Leandro because we were talking a bit about mobility in the Philippines in general and of course, anong kailangan talaga to solve all of our mobility problems. And you have some thoughts kung ano yung underlying problem or what is the biggest solution that we need to work towards. What is that for you?
I think the biggest problem is more of the culture and mindset of the people and the government and the private sector. Because usually when we look at transportation, we look at the vehicles, we look at the infrastructure, and really we should be looking at how we're moving people, like what are the most efficient ways to move people. Because I noticed that in one of it, like let's say for example, when you look at the way traffic management is usually talked about, it only talks about cars, usually private vehicles, but it doesn't really consider public transportation, pedestrians, cyclists, and other micromobility users. So what's
I think what
happening?
Leandro is saying is that the way i-design yung mga kalsada natin, ang tinitake into consideration lang yung mga sasakyan eh. Kaya nakita mo yung mga, nung nagkaroon ng pandemic, nung naglaan ng bicycle lane, naging weird yung mga division ng ano, di ba? Ng kalsada. Parang pinilit.
O nga, parang pinilit tapos may mga ibang lane na kalahati pang bicycle, kalahati para pang kotse, pero yung kasya ng kotse dun siguro wigo lang eh. But of course, when you consider all of that, Hans, you also have some thoughts. Agree ka ba doon in his thesis statement?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. Sometimes it's intentional. So for example, with yung ginagawa ngayon sa EDSA, with the sidewalk, instead of opting for a very separated bike lane, they opted to combine the bike lane and the sidewalk. And sometimes it's also unintentional. So for example, when they made the new bridge connecting BGC and Ortigas, they made it specifically for cars, and apparently they completely forgot to include pedestrians in the conversation.
Nakita din natin yun. In fact, we're showing video of that right now. That exact bridge going from BGC to the Ortigas area. I have to admit, I take that bridge all the time. And to be honest, may mga cyclists pa din doon, partner.
Yes, yes.
Oo.
Pero alam mo, masabi ko sa mga viewers natin, to si Hans at si Leandro, sobrang tapang nitong mga to, sobrang passionate sila. Nakipag-away sila. Minsan, pag meron silang sinishare sa social media, pag may mga nakaka-enkwentro sila ng mga car drivers na ayaw mag-giveaway, tapos, ano sinabi mo to, Leandro, yung parang, meron kang term na ginagamit eh, pagka ginagrace yung cyclist.
Yun is close pass.
Yes, close pass. Kung walang respeto ang mga Filipino car drivers sa pedestrians, lalo silang walang respeto sa mga cyclists.
You've been bike commuting since forever, it feels like. Or right before the pandemic or right after pandemic.
Toward the end of the pandemic.
Towards the end of the pandemic. Tama ba yung characterization na yun that there is not enough respect shown to cyclists in general dito sa Metro Manila?
Yes, and this also extends to pedestrians and other vulnerable road users.
When we talk about, you mentioned the infrastructure not being built for pedestrians, for bicycles in general. Your advocacy, or at least your solution when we were talking up there, is actually to reduce vehicles on the road. How do you see that happening? Ano yung ideal situation mo? Paano yun mangyayari?
I think this is where the friction point between the mobility advocates and the drivers exists. Kasi at some point, even if I myself am a driver, I love driving cars lalo kung walang traffic. But also at the same time, when I get out of the car, I'm a pedestrian. I'm not a driver. So it's not so much na magkatunggali kami, but rather that instead of completely preventing cars from existing on our roads, the option should be there na if I don't want to drive, I should be able to walk, I should be able to bike, I should be able to commute. But that's just absent now. So a lot of people are forced to drive. A lot of people are forced to purchase motorcycles and use them because there's just no option for them to be able to get around.
Well, hindi rin nakakatulong is that the volume of vehicles na nakita natin sa EDSA, for example, it far exceeds yung capacity niya in general, partner. And we always see that as one of the big problems kung bakit traffic nga dito sa Metro Manila.
Gusto ko yung sinabi ni Hans kanina na lahat tayo, pedestrian, ang bottom line, lahat tayo naglalakad tayo. Pero bakit yung mga karamihan ng mga car drivers, bakit hindi sila maka-empathize sa mga pedestrians?
Now, this is actually a very, very recent study. And the researcher of the study coined the term motor normativity.
Okay.
And motor normativity basically says that there are a lot of things, a lot of bad things that we're able to put up with just because it's being done by a car. But if they were to be done by, for example, a cyclist, a motorcyclist, a pedestrian, that's when we realize that, actually, you're not supposed to block the road. You're not supposed to drive distracted. You're not supposed to drive under the influence. And that also plays into the conversation na we're constantly thinking about prioritizing cars, even if we don't mean to. That's just how pervasive that idea is. And unless we're actually willing to understand and change that, well, walang magbabago. We're still prioritizing cars.
May nakikita ka bang hope na makita ng gobyerno na sobrang car-centric ang Pilipinas, especially Metro Manila?
Actually, the government has been doing pretty decently compared to pre-pandemic times. Dumami yung mga bike lanes. Now we're actually starting to put sidewalks on EDSA, for example. And in comparing with bike commuting before the pandemic, during and after the pandemic, it seems like drivers are a little bit more aware, at least, that pedestrians and cyclists also have their place on the road.
Yeah.
Although we definitely have way more to do.
Yeah, there's a lot more to do, and since the pandemic, actually bumaba yung budget for the bike lanes in general, in almost all forms of pedestrian travel. There have been proposals ng DOTR to increase yung budget nila back to 1 billion pesos at the very least. But at the same time, ngayon, if I'm not mistaken, last year, nasa 150 million lang yung budget nila. When you hear all of that and talk about yung infrastructure in yung building, again, you know, you do work with other people who advocate for better infrastructure, better mobility, and more urban intelligence when it comes to creating better spaces para sa mga cyclists natin and pedestrians. You know, just how important is it that the investments are done at the right places and, of course, in consideration of more than just vehicles?
Yeah, I think no matter how much you say, it's really in the budget where you'll see if they actually have the political will to enforce it. And I think that's why it's really important that you have civil society groups such as the Move Us On Coalition, you know, convening different stakeholders, including the government, so that we can actually get the discussion rolling and hold the government accountable.
Has the government kept up yung state of, well, really, yung protected bike lanes and then the ease of commute for cyclists in particular since the pandemic? Because it became a big thing during the pandemic. There was a lot of investment. Tapos some LGUs in particular biglang nag-roll back or nawala yung suporta para sa mga cyclists. Do you feel that there are still some LGUs that have kept up with what we started in the pandemic and even improved?
I think the one notable LGU is the Quezon City government, because they have a dedicated department for it, the Green Transport Division, and they're constantly fighting for more bike lanes even if there's a bit of conflict with other agencies. And they have this thing called the monthly Kapihan session where they regularly meet with stakeholders to share their projects and ideas and to listen to their concerns also.
Lagi ko nga naririnig yung QC. Kumusta yung Pasig? Magkapit-bahay kami nito sa Pasig, sa Kapitolyo.
Kapitolyo.
Kumusta bang idol natin, si Mayor Vico?
It's ironic also, like even if Pasig has the people's streets where they close off the street to cars every weekend, in terms of bike lanes, there isn't really anything notable that I can recall.
Well, not much notable there, but of course we have more notable points we're going to talk about in just a bit. Because right now we're going to have to take a short break. When we come back, we'll dive deeper into what it takes to build better streets and a transportation system that moves people and not just vehicles. Stay with us. We'll be right back. You're tuned in to BNC, the Billionaire News Channel, and Mellow 947 BFM. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Looking for the perfect escape? Discover Club Nalu, a serene beachfront retreat where stillness meets style. Nestled along the quiet shores of Bacnotan in La Union, Club Nalu is designed for slow mornings, ocean breezes, and moments that help you unwind. From cozy rooms and sun-drenched villas to relaxing spaces inspired by nature. Every corner invites you to pause, breathe, and recharge. Club Nalu, come as you are and leave feeling a little lighter. Book now at clubnalu.ph.
And welcome back. You're still watching Shift Happens. I'm Paolo del Rosario. You're still tuned in on Mellow 947 BFM. simulcast on BNC, the Billionaire News Channel. Now, you're still with me and Vernon Sarne, and together we're here with Hans Bosshard, a maker and mobility innovator, and Leandro Mangubat, a mobility advocate, urbanist, at cycling enthusiast. So I want to go to Hans first because mobility innovator, that means technology is very important sa buhay mo, sa buhay natin lahat. And you are also, and you work with electronics in general, di ba?
Yeah.
How important rather is technology in terms of trying to solve or make it easier to travel around our country? Because your goal is to reduce the amount of vehicles in the country. But that also means that we need to find ways to travel smarter in general, and that might actually help ease that problem. What do you think needs to be done?
I think with the many hats that I wear, it's actually it's easy to see, or rather it's nice to see just how wide we're trying to get technology to solve our traffic problem. So from the academe pa lang all the way to yung mga, what MMDA and the LGUs are working with sa smart transportation. They're trying to put LTE and 5G into our vehicles in order for them to talk to our streets, for example, yung mga traffic lights, other cars, etc. But that doesn't solve the fundamental issue that if you get more cars, you'll get more traffic. So I think a much more intelligent way of solving yung traffic issue natin would actually be integrating public transportation into the mix. So there's a lot of mga new technologies that we could use for public transportation. Like for example, kahit sa mga buses with dispatching, knowing where exactly they are, with trains to be able to figure out how many people are waiting on a platform, for example, and then dispatching the trains accordingly. There's a lot of things that technology could help us, but at the end of the day, technology is just a tool. And it really is up to how we use that tool whether we'll actually solve the problem or not.
Alam mo, you bring up a good point. And Vernon, kasi alam naman natin yung mga LGU, may sarili silang galawan eh.
Yeah.
Sometimes they adopt technology ahead of another. Minsan
Kailangan pogi sila.
Oo nga, kailangan pogi. But at the same time, is it actually dangerous in your opinion? When, again, Metro Manila is very unique in a world sense. Kasi how many cities in one space? Sharing the same roads but having different laws and different implementation, different technology. Is it actually dangerous if only a few cities adopt a certain technology and the others don't? If there is no unified technology being used throughout the entire Metro Manila area, or of course, any other provinces that have a similar situation?
I don't think it's dangerous per se, but you're definitely not using the full extent of the technology that you're trying to implement. Very, very basic, not even technology, for example. If you're going to try to commute for example, from Manila City all the way until Quezon City, if every LGU you're going to have to get off and then hop onto a different transit, that's not going to be a good experience for commuters. And it's more or less the same with technology. So for example, if you have adaptive traffic lights, controlling a certain intersection in a certain city, but that thoroughfare crosses through multiple cities. It would be much better to be able to control yung platoon ng cars that are passing through if they're actually coordinated with each other.
No, I bring that up because we've talked to a lot of cyclists dito sa show na to. And Leandro, I'm sure you know that every LGU treats cyclists differently almost, especially just at the state of yung protected quote-unquote bike lanes nila. Diba? I mean, like, how different is it sometimes and how difficult is it as a cyclist when knowing that iba yung priority ng mga LGUs when it comes to cyclists?
Yeah, like the on-the-ground experience in different LGUs affects the routes cyclists take. So if they feel that one route is more riskier or not as pleasant than the other, then they might be willing to take a longer route or pass through a different area.
So gusto kong tanungin, safe ba talaga mag-bike sa Metro Manila?
Yeah.
Definitely, even if you're going to look at the statistics, cycling is one of the safer transportation options. Like if you're just gonna...
Really?
This is one of the things that is sobrang pervasive kasi nung idea na, okay, to be safe in Metro Manila, not only do you need to be in a car, you need to be in an SUV. You need to protect yourself as much as possible. But if you're gonna look at the data rather, it tells a completely different story.
Hans, sorry pardon me kasi kaya ganun ang mindset ko.
Yeah.
Yung napapanood ko na video na sinasabit sa amin on a daily basis, laging sobrang reckless ng mga car drivers. Nagmamotor, nakabisikleta, pedestrian, kung banggay ng mga kotse, just ganun-ganun na lang. So parang anong assurance ko as a, kunyari interested ako magbisikleta, anong assurance ko na hindi ako babanggay ng mga car drivers?
Well, one of the things that you could do is you could easily plan yung routes to be able to go onto less busy streets. But also at the same time, because of the nature of cycling, it's very easy to drive or cycle in a defensive manner. Mas maganda yung sight lines mo, you're more nimble, things like that.
Do you feel safe?
Yeah, actually, before I started bike commuting, I did have that anxiety because the vulnerability is very high. But when I actually started biking, at first I started in Capitolio, then I joined the group ride on EDSA, then I would go to Antipolo. So there I realized that, yes, the vulnerability is high, but the risk of getting into collision is low because you don't travel as fast as a car or a motorcycle. You're usually on the outermost lane or on the bike lane.
Pao, alam mo ba na nakapag-bike ngayon sa Baler?
Sa Baler.
No, bus to Baler, then bike
Ah,
around
okay.
Baler.
Kala ko nag-bike lang siya.
Sorry. Yeah, nag-bus ka nga pala. Pero nakapag-bike ka na ng long distance, di ba?
My longest ride was the Subic Audax, 200
okay.
kilometers.
Oh, okay.
Malayo pa rin yung Subic, di ba? Malayo pa rin yun.
How long would that take?
Around 13 hours.
13 hours. Wow, you're a patient man, huh? But yeah, from a... Again, we're focused here on Metro Manila, only because, well, obviously we're here. But what are the good examples that you've seen around the country based on infrastructure, based on at least ideas of LGUs that, if implemented more, it could become more of a normal thing in these different cities that you hope would be implemented here in Metro Manila?
I think the one infrastructure I appreciate are the protected bike lanes in Quezon City.
Okay.
Because one, they're wide enough to have two cyclists riding abreast, so they can be bidirectional. And then they're protected by plant boxes, so you really know that no one's going
They're
to
fine.
crash into you. So that makes navigating it easy because the issue when it comes to safety is more of the perceived risk. Basically, people naturally calculate the risk in their head on what they're going to take and what they're not willing to take. So the easier you make it for people, the
Meron
more
ako tanong sa
encouraged.
kanila. Kung hindi ba nagkaroon ng pandemic, magiging interested ba kayo sa bike? Meaning, since childhood, talagang interesado ba kayo sa bisikleta? Or napilitan lang kayo dahil sa situation ng pandemic?
I was actually biking nung bata pa ako. And when I got into college, I didn't want to wait for the jeep.
Yeah.
So I got a bike on campus.
Yeah. Parang
and
tataka
yun na
UP
lang
ka
yun.
talaga.
Yeah. So instead of walking 30 minutes, you just bike for 10 minutes.
Yeah, fair. How about you?
For me, I actually started biking in Pokemon in the Game Boy because it was the most convenient way to get around. And then eventually, I started traveling abroad, walking and taking public transit. So once I started driving here and then experienced the freedom of bike commuting, it's like the childhood joy of Pokemon combined with the freedom of traveling abroad. I get to feel it on the bicycle in Metro Manila, and that's why I love it so much.
This is the first ever origin story na narinig ko dito sa show na to. Dahil sa Pokemon, nag-bicycle to. But I love that story, and hopefully we can have more Pokemon trainers come out and just go cycle as well. Before we let you guys go, I just want to know kung ano yung biggest wish list nyo for mobility here that you feel is attainable in the next couple of years. I'll start with you.
Biggest wishes, I guess I hope that local governments would have more stakeholder consultation, would really just listen to the concerns of the people. Because ang dami nilang makukuha ang inputs if they just give the right venue and time for people to share. Like, how it's like walking to the market to do groceries, dropping off kids at school, or commuting to work. Ang daming lived experiences that need to be taken into account so that we can really make people-centric streets and the transportation that serves the majority.
Yeah, because there might be a disconnect between the legislature and, of course, the people themselves. And how about you?
More trains, more bus rapid transits. Hopefully, wala nang expressway. If we can build an expressway that easily, hopefully we could build more train lines
That's
that
actually
easy as
true,
well.
diba? Pero Vernon, ang galing ng mga bata mo,
Sobrang actually, natutuwa ako sa kanila dahil hindi sila sobrang car-centric.
Yeah.
Mga nakatrabaho ko, puro kotse, parang
yeah.
cool. Sila, bisikleta lang kailangan nila, sobrang cool sila.
Ayun. Kala ko hindi na cool eh. But again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here. That's Leandro Mangubat and, of course, Hans Bosshard. Thank you so much for joining us. Read them on Visor.
Yep.
And I really enjoy their work. It's always a lot of fun. Vernon, take it away.
And that concludes our roundup of the stories driving the industry forward. I'm Vernon Sarne.
At ako po si Paolo del Rosario. Join us again next week on Shift Happens, your fast track guide to everything on the move. Mondays to Fridays at 2 p.m. Only here on BNC, the Billionaire News Channel and Mellow 947 BFM.